Hello, my beautiful friends. So today we're going to talk about, could you complete a PhD? Some people think it's about being clever, but in this video, we're going to go through the 3 things that actually dictate whether or not you'll be able to complete a PhD, and it's nothing to do with your grades. This video is brought to you by my newsletter. Go check it out at andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter. I'll put a link in the description, but there you can sign up to get access to my newsletter that contains content that is not published anywhere else. Invite-only Q&As, giveaways, other information, the things I'm reading, the things I'm up to, and get exclusive access to that only at my newsletter. So go check it out. I'll put a link in the description, like I said, and yeah, I'll see you over there. All right then, could you complete a PhD? Some people think that doing a PhD is about how clever you are. They could not be further from the truth. Like, when you're an undergraduate, you get kudos, you get your kind of academic credentials by doing one thing, and that's completing tasks, like tasks that are very well defined, as in finish this bit of coursework and you'll get a grade, sit this exam and you'll get a grade. But very rarely do PhDs follow that kind of process, which means that you are in no man's land. Like, undergraduate learning information is a great foundation to do a PhD, but it does not dictate the success of the PhD student or the project or how well they'll do. It's just a kind of means to get there, and then you're kind of chucked in at the deep end. That is like nothing else you've done before. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the problem is that all of a sudden you've gone from this situation where you're the clever one by being very good at hacking exams. Like, I learned towards the end of my undergraduate, I learned how I learn best. And so I was able to cram a load of information into my head, spill it out at an exam. And I used to joke to my friends that as soon as I walked out of the exam room, like, that knowledge just was no longer useful and it left my head. And so a PhD is not like that at all. It is a long commitment. You have to keep going for many years, and yeah, it's not about your academic credentials. In fact, some of the best PhD students I've known were okay students. They weren't like first or top of their class. They were just good people who knew these 3 things that I'm going to talk about next. So yes, get it out of your mind. If you're a good undergraduate, all that means is that you're good at sitting exams and doing coursework. It does not mean necessarily that you're going to be great at doing some research. So investing in yourself to build up these skills, understanding, I guess, that a PhD is kind of another level of learning, which you need to sort of like, I guess it's like kind of a bit like self-improvement. You need to kind of look at yourself and go, okay, what am I lacking? What should I do to get to move forward? And what are my own limiting behaviors or beliefs that mean I can't get to the end, which is a PhD thesis or PhD by publication, which you can now do. All right, then let's have a look at the 3 things. The first thing, and I think it's the most important, is understanding how success really happens. Now, in our minds and in all the books that we read, and when people tell us about their success, they are doing it with hindsight. With hindsight, success looks like this: beginning, end, and then like a straight line leading up to success. But success is not like that. Success contains ups, downs, backward steps, moments of depression. And so really, to get from here to here, it looks like this. And it just goes all over the place. It's just a nightmare. And sometimes you'll kind of like come back to where you started, and then you'll start building up again. And it's really the ability to weather those ups and downs that sort of dictates the success. Now, by weathering, I mean like getting through it. And that can come in a series of kind of, I guess, approaches. It can be that you just need to take a break. It could be that you need to understand that failure is not fatal. Failure is only permanent if you allow it to be. And so working through the things that didn't work, reflecting, understanding where you went wrong, like that is really where a PhD student is able to push through those experiments that didn't work, the opportunities that didn't show up, the bad reviewers' comments. Like all of these things come down with you being able to be resilient and persistent enough to push on through. Now, that doesn't mean that things don't hurt. Like understanding that your emotional reaction to failure is completely natural. Like if you were to not feel anything, I think you'd be like a sociopath or a narcissist. I'm not up on my terminology, but you do feel stuff as a human, but it's about moving past that. And so yes, sometimes things hurt. And accepting they hurt, understanding it, understanding that failure is part of the process, and accepting and feeling what you have to feel, and then use your analytical part of your brain after those feelings have subsided and going, okay, how do I get out of this? And for some people, that just means having a good old cry. My PhD supervisor would be a person who would cry after not getting grants or, getting bad feedback or whatever. And then she would sort of kick into another mode a couple of days later and be like, okay, how do I resolve this? But understanding that you're only human, that the ups and downs will affect you emotionally is very important. And so being able to get through that, and also understanding that a step backwards just means you found out another way that doesn't work. And so you can approach that new question, that experiment, that bit of research differently next time. So yes, getting through, having a long-term plan, understanding that success really happens in this haphazard, horrible way. Like I always think about, big businesses, Apple, Microsoft, like it makes sense now, like those pivotal moments in their decision making or their business, but really, and at the time, they were just surviving. And really, that's all you have to do is survive, do what's best at the moment, have that long-term plan, but also remember that success is up, down, backwards, forwards, all over the place. And it's about just being in the game. Like I said, failure is only fatal if you allow it to be. If you pick yourself back up and carry on forward, it has not defined you. The second thing that I think is really important that every PhD student should have is they should actually enjoy what they're doing. The best scientists I have known enjoyed what they were doing to the point where I actually was like, are these guys like okay? They would go into the lab at the weekends and I thought, oh no, it's like, you don't have to do that. And they did. They wanted to. They wanted to do that next experiment. And some people balance that by working hard and playing really hard. Whatever works for them, I guess. But it's, they did actually enjoy turning up to the lab, doing the research. And here's the thing. In undergraduate, you do not really get a taste of research. You do your lab experiments, you do your research proposals, you do your literature reviews, you take the first steps. But research is not really part of the undergraduate curriculum. And so when you get there, a lot of people go, oh, this is research. Oh, I don't like it. And that is absolutely fine. Like, get out of there. If you don't like research, it is no issue at all. You do have to try it, though, to see if you do or don't like it. But there's this kind of like sunk cost fallacy where people are like, well, I'm here now. This is must have what I've been working to. And I hate it. And, if you hate it, get out. Enjoying the process, actually getting excited by generating new ideas, failing a little bit, testing stuff in the lab, writing stuff up, applying for grants. Like, yeah, you're not going to enjoy all of it, but you should enjoy the majority of it. And I think the most successful PhD students are people that are genuinely interested in what they're trying to achieve, and they're happy to kind of go through the ups and downs, because at the end, not only do they enjoy the process, but they enjoy the scientific process if you're in STEM, or they enjoy the literature research if you're in another discipline. And so yes, enjoying the process is a very important part of all of this. And if you don't enjoy research, or you get there and you go, I hate this, then get out, do something else. Life's too short to do something you hate, and enjoying the process will mean that you're more likely to complete a PhD. The third thing that I think an incredibly successful PhD student has and brings to the table is the ability to execute. Now, what I mean about this is, when in undergrad, you learn a lot of theory. It's a lot of theory, and you're praised on knowing that theory. But research is completely different, because you need to take that theory, what you're reading in research papers, what you're reading in textbooks, and put it into practice. And this is what I call the learning-doing gap. The learning-doing gap is incredibly large, and it feels like it shouldn't be. It's like, I know this and I'm just going to apply it, but it is so different. You know, it is so sort of the activation energy, to put in a science term, that the activation energy is large. You need to get over a large hump, because that large hump involves organizing supplies, sorting out what you're going to do, trying to just come over your own self-limiting beliefs and being like, oh, I can do this. Not being afraid of failure. Understanding that, this is a messy process and you are going to fail more times than you're going to succeed. But when you succeed, it's that next step forward, because you're doing something that no one has ever done before. That's why you're doing a PhD. And so being able to put theory into practice is probably the number 3 things, as said on the list, that I think a successful PhD student should have. Now, some of the best scientists have been people that have been, how do you say it, like just quite haphazard in the way they've done stuff. Like, they are more concerned about doing than theory. And I think that's kind of a cool thing to be able to do, is going to be like, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm going to try my best just to mash these ideas together and see what happens. And it's the confidence and belief in themselves to mash these things together, understand. I guess it's about like, understanding a little bit about how you feel about uncertainty. And just understanding that, yes, plowing through, doing what you have to do to get to the result. And the guy that I'm thinking of was just amazing at just doing. Like, he probably wasn't even the best at theory. He probably wasn't even the cleverest person I'd ever met, but he was a brilliant PhD student because he literally went in the lab and executed. And a PhD does not get finished unless you execute your ideas, you execute your experiments, or you execute on writing every day. And that's what he was really great at. Actually, go check out my other video. I think it's called The Perfect PhD Schedule. And if you sign up to the newsletter, you'll get a downloadable template which you can use a print off to work out your goals and your daily schedule to make sure you actually reach those goals. But it's all about executing. Executing on ideas means that you're putting your theory into practice, which means that your thesis is kind of being built day by day, brick by brick, atom by atom, however you want to think about it. And that's really what makes someone able to complete a PhD, is bridging the theory-doing gap. And there is a lot of thinking in doing a PhD, but thinking won't get you your PhD. Thinking will get you part of the way. The majority of what you've got to do is just force those ideas together, perform the most imperfect experiments and execute on the most imperfect ideas, and then you'll get there. That's how you get a PhD. So after hearing that, do you think you could do a PhD? Or if you're doing a PhD right now, does that ring true for you? Let me know in the comments. All right, go sign up to the newsletter. Talked about that enough this video, and I shall see you in the next video. I hope you have a fantastic time. Remember that doing a PhD is always a little bit turbulent. It's always a little bit rough. It's always a little bit crazy, but persistence, executing daily, and enjoying the process will make it so much easier than people that don't have those 3 key components.